Our story begins with a member of the Yellow Corps tormenting space pirates, until his ring removes itself from his hand, and it takes off into space, claiming that he's been decommissioned. The space pirates that he was tormenting take this opportunity to attack and kill him. A member of the Red Corps saw burning murderers alive when he becomes decommissioned, and his ring leaves him, killing him, as red rings act as the hearts to their wearers. A member of the Star Sapphire Corps loses her ring as she's trying to save a loving family from certain death, only to be rescued by fatality of the Star Sapphire Corps before she can perish. And Kyle Rayner, well, he's on Earth saving people as usual, and after a brief argument with a kid about his choice in costume, Kyle's day gets a lot more interesting, as a blue ring arrives declaring, Kyle Rayner of Earth, you have been chosen. Followed quickly by a yellow ring, a red ring, a sapphire ring, an orange ring, and an indigo ring. Kyle Rayner of Earth, you've been chosen. And Kyle simply declares, well, this can't be good. If only Kyle knew how right he was, as our killer of the Yellow Corps jumps in to get his Corps' ring back. And then he gets sucker punched by an enraged bullies of the Red Corps. Fatality of the Star Sapphires and Monk of the Indigo Corps both teleport in, and they tell Kyle to give back what he's stolen. Each corps begins their onslaught against Kyle as bullies fuse napalm blood all over the bystanders, requiring Kyle to save them. And our killer throws Kyle through the ground and into the subway system. This entire time, the rings are circling around Kyle, and everyone is trying to grab their respective corps back. But once they do, they get hit with a charge and the rings declare feedback overload. So Kyle takes off to the skies, trying to get away from all of these other corps, only to become encased by a violet-like crystal which imprisons him by fatality. But that won't stop Kyle, because his ring begins to declare its power levels are rising. 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%, 110%, 120%. Kyle breaks out of the crystal, and he realizes that this can only mean one thing. Sage Walker has arrived to aid his friend, and he lets Kyle know that he is here to see what's going on with the blue ring. But that doesn't matter, because all will be well. Saint Walker overcharges Kyle's green ring, and the two of them blast off at light speed into space to escape the rest of these other corps. Kyle tells Saint Walker that they're going to go ask Ganthet of the Guardians of the Universe what's going on, and the two of them travel through space. Now, while Kyle and Saint Walker travel through space, I want to explain something. Ganthet is probably the only friendly Guardian, as he understands what needs to happen, and he wants to see the universe be taken care of properly. While the rest of the Guardians just want straight order regardless of the cost, Ganthet is willing to embrace his emotions and allow them to help him in making the right decisions. He is the Guardian who handpicked Kyle, and he is the Guardian who started the Blue Lantern Corps of Hope with his fellow Guardian, Sade. Both Kyle and Saint Walker view him as sort of a father figure, while the rest of the ring bearers decide that they're going to give chase to Kyle and get their rings back, just as Kyle and Saint Walker arrive on Oa. Kyle finds where Ganthet is located, and he heads to the main Guardian's chamber. A smile forms on Kyle's face as he sees Ganthet, and he heads over to see him and ask him, what's going on, Ganthet? I haven't heard from you, and I was worried about you. But Ganthet replies, you should only worry about your sector, Lantern Kyle. Kyle looks puzzled. What's wrong with you, Ganthet? It's me, Kyle! And the other Guardians reply with, there is nothing wrong with Brother Ganthet. His emotions were impeding his judgment, so we removed them for him. And Kyle snaps at them, you lobotomized him? And the Guardians reply with, no, he is still fully capable. Now explain to us why these rings have sought you out. And Kyle just yells, I don't know! That's why I came to you, Ganthet! And just then, every ring slips onto Kyle's fingers. Kyle looks very worried, and he should, because the next thing that happens is every ring welcomes Kyle to their core, and he wields every ring at the same time. A blast of energy shoots out of Kyle, knocking back all of the Guardians, and the Guardians stand there and state, this is impossible. No human can harness every emotion. Filled with rage, greed, willpower, hope, compassion, love, fear, Kyle overloads on all of it, and he loses control of every ring. They all shatter except for the orange ring, and he falls to the ground exhausted. Ganthet comes over and declares, Krona tried the same thing, Kyle, and he was an immortal. You couldn't hope to control every ring. And just then, the orange ring reveals its true nature as Glomulus. It was never an orange ring. It was simply another member of the Orange Lantern Corps, which is just a construct of the Orange Lantern Corps. Kyle starts to wake up and he realizes what's going on, and he simply says, this can't get any worse. And just then, every member of the other corps come barreling in. The Guardians of the Universe go to town, removing all of the threats that the ring bearers pose to them. Well, that is until Larfleeze himself comes through the ceiling, riding atop his personal guardian, Sade, declaring, you are all mine! Kyle asks Larfleeze if he plans to fight the Guardians alone, and Larfleeze replies with, "Of course not! I expect my new Guardians to chip in!" So the ring bearers all get up and they prepare to get involved in this battle with Larfleeze when Sade gets up and tells Kyle that if he wants to know why the rings were attracted to him, he needs to leave right this second. But Kyle refuses and he says, "I can say Ganthet!" And he jumps right back into the fight, telling Ganthet to let him help. But Ganthet tells Kyle, "Do not worry about me. You can't rely on the other cores for help. Stay here and let us Guardians study you. Let us figure out why you're attracting the other rings. Trust me. One more time, Kyle. Please." But Kyle sees that the Ganthet he knew is gone, and he blasts Ganthet with all the willpower he has, declaring, "From now on, I forge my own future." He runs over to Monk and he tells him to teleport all of these new Guardians out of here. They need to go. And boom. Just like that, they all end up on Okara, the homeworld of the Orange Lanterns and of Larfleeze. Please immediately takes on for the Red Lantern homeworld in a hurry, and Arkillo is furious at Monk for forcing him to retreat. But after Sade Walker calms down Arkillo, they have a chat about what's going on. Sade and Larfleeze explain why his ring wasn't a ring and why the rings went to Kyle. You see, Larfleeze and Sade felt something pulling at the rings, trying to get the power out of the rings. Larfleeze felt that this was happening because he always holds on to his lantern. So he sent Glomulus out to pretend to be a ring to see where the others were going. He then sent Sade to the location that they were being pulled from. And what Sade found was an entire solar system-sized ship that looked like a solar system coming through a white dwarf star. So, Arkillo, Fatality, Sade Walker, Kyle, Monk, and Glomulus all head to the solar system-sized spaceship to investigate. What they discover is that each of these planet-sized ships is actually a planet on the inside. They've got a remade Temeria, they've got a remade Okara, as well as other well-known planets in the Vega system, all recreated right down to the inhabitants. They discover that this collection of worlds is a remake of existing worlds in the Vega system in its entirety, which is the solar system that Larfleeze resides in. And this ship is calling itself the Orrery. This entire ship and this entire remade solar system is presided by one man, the Archangel Invictus. He steps out and he witnesses that he's being invaded by other ring bearers. And just like the orange light wielding scum, he begins to utterly wreck the entire group. His power is insane, and one by one, he breaks down the ones who he says wield the darkness. They don't even stand a chance against him. Until he reaches Saint Walker. Saint Walker uses his power to see into Invictus's mind to bring him hope and try to fix his attitude. But the blue light of hope brings forth nothing, because as Invictus says, he is the hero of this tale, and he is the hero here to rescue a solar system. He sees that Saint Walker obviously fights for what's right, but he seems to be confused, so he explains what his purpose is. You see, the Archangel Invictus and his people, the Archangels, used to watch over the Vega system. They were trying their best to cultivate this into a powerhouse of a solar system with super intelligent and passive races. Everything was going as planned until one day, Larfleeze came out of nowhere and began trapping the residents of the planets in his orange ring, turning them into his Orange Lantern constructs. The Archangels, of course, fought back, but they kept losing to Larfleeze, and their race doesn't die like normal. Once an Archangel dies, his power goes back into a pool in which all of the Archangels share from. So every time Larfleeze killed an Archangel to add to his collection, they would slip out of his grasp until Vindictus was the last remaining Archangel in this universe. Eventually, this led Invictus into a direct fight with Larfleeze, and the two of them fought. But due to the fact that Invictus had all of the power of all of the Archangels at his disposal now, he was actually able to begin defeating Larfleeze, and he opened up a white dwarf star so that he could banish the evil ring wielder. Larfleeze had his own plans, and he used his constructs to throw Invictus into the portal instead. So Saint Walker looks at Invictus confused. Then your purpose can't be one of vengeance, he states. And Invictus replies, no. I rebuilt the entire solar system so that I could replace the tainted one that Larfleeze has created. Well, since Invictus has been taking so long explaining his evil plot, Kyle was able to recover and he asks, if you were able to remove our rings, why didn't you while we were down? And Invictus replies with, if I could remove your rings, I would have defeated the Orange Beast eons ago. So Kyle puzzlingly looks at Invictus and says, so you didn't remove a bunch of ring wielders' rings and send them to me? And Invictus says, what nonsense, who told you I could do that? So they begin to try and talk it out to solve the issue, but just as they appear to be getting somewhere, Blige returns, and she begins to spray napalm blood all over the place, screaming, you dare take a red ring? Of course, this makes Invictus mad as he thinks that their plan was to distract him. The fighting begins again, but it doesn't get much further as Invictus is still all-powerful and still able to remove the threat of the ring bearers without a problem. After a little bit more fighting and a little bit more talking, Kyle finally talks down Invictus again. And Invictus agrees to stop on one condition. Kyle and these new Guardians, they'll kill Larfleeze for him. Well, the new Guardians leave the orrery and they try to decide what they're going to do now, but first, they need to go charge their rings. A few things happen during this period, such as Arkillo learning that he is one of the last Yellow Lanterns and getting the Weaponer of Cord to work with him because Sinestro has gone through and destroyed the Yellow Power Battery and he disbanded the Corps as a Green Lantern. St. Walker returned to his homeworld to discover that it was being assaulted by the Reach, which is the homeworld of the Blue Beetle armor. The Blue Lanterns lost their battle that day, and the Blue Lantern Power Battery was destroyed as they tried to get it off of their planet. But since the Blue Lantern world was hidden from all, St. Walker assumes that it was Larfleeze who gave out this location. So he decides it's time for Larfleeze to answer for all of his crimes. The group comes back together eventually, and they decide that they are going to go get rid of Larfleeze. It's time for him to answer for everything he's done. I mean, he's an evil guy, he's killed billions, and now a whole solar system is about to die because of his actions. While they may not kill him, it's time for them to remove this problem from the Green Lantern lore for good. So they come up with a masterful plan in which they'll sneak in and attack Larfleeze. But honestly, none of it works, because Glomulus is one of Larfleeze's constructs. So anything that Glomulus knows, Larfleeze knows. Kyle looks hurt, and he looks at Glommy, and he says, "I thought you were one of us. Thought we were friends, Glommy." Glommy just looks sad, but he feels he betrayed Kyle. But Larfleeze replies with, "I have friends too, and you'll be joining them today," and he begins his attack on the new Guardians. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Vega system, Invictus arrives, and he announces that he's here to get rid of the entire solar system for its crimes and its debauchery. He will abide this no longer, and with that, he destroys an entire planet and replaces it with his own. Back with Larfleeze and the new Guardians, the attacks continue with Larfleeze just laughing as his toys beat on these new Guardians. And while this is all going on, St. Walker demands to know why Larfleeze sent the Reach to destroy his homeworld. But Larfleeze just laughs. "I didn't send anyone to you, Blue Lantern. If I wanted to destroy you, I wouldn't have shared that pleasure with anyone." But Kyle realizes Larfleeze's one weakness. So he tells Monk to channel the energy of avarice back on Larfleeze, burn him with his own greed. Furious, Larfleeze smacks Kyle over the head with his orange power battery, and he tells Kyle to prepare to join his collection. But just then, Glomulus jumps in and screams, "Monster, no!" Larfleeze just bombards Glomulus with his power, and he swallows him back up into the ring, and he tells him, "You stay dead this time." Furious that one of their own has gone down, the Guardians rally together and they attack Larfleeze once and for all. They're doing this for Glomulus. They're doing it as a team, as the new Guardians. And Larfleeze calls out, "My Pet Guardian! Save me, Pet Guardian!" But Sade has had enough, and she joins in declaring that she was never Larfleeze's pet, and he will stop hurting them after all she did to bring these new Guardians together. And then Kyle realizes Sade is the ring thief. Sade started this whole thing, and he simply stops and asks, "Why?" And she replies, "You of all people should know why I did this, Kyle." But the rest of the new Guardians also stand firm, and they ask, "I think we'd all like that answer, Sade." But just then, Invictus' floating planet ship looms overhead, and the group decides that they may want to finish this first. Since their fight with Larfleeze is obviously over, Kyle asks Larfleeze to join them in this fight. They're gonna need the power of avarice to join them since Glomulus is no longer with them. It's going to take all of the colors of the spectrum to stop Invictus. They all hurry to the latest planet that he's planning to attack, and Invictus himself begins the battle with them by jumping down from his ship and attacking Larfleeze straight away. 1 billion years I have waited for my revenge. And the rest of the new Guardians? They stand there and they watch. They all agree that Larfleeze deserves just a little bit of a beating. And eventually, they jump in to save him. They use all of their powers combined for an epic battle against Invictus, and while they are battling against him, they have the Weaponer of Quard move the orrery away from Invictus, traveling farther and farther away. And everyone realizes that Invictus' power is coming from his solar system-sized ship. With it leaving, he has no powers anymore. And he realizes this too, but he realizes it a little too late, as they continue to move it away, and he begins to fade into nothing, fade out of existence, and he finally perishes. Larfleeze grabs Invictus and says, "I finally got an angel!" And he takes off for Okara again. But the rest of the Lanterns stop right there, and they look at Sade, and they demand to know what's going on. Sage explains that when Ganthet's emotions were taken from him, his mind cried out across the galaxy, and Sage felt the most intense and overwhelming thing ever. She felt them extinguishing his soul. She was the only one who knew what happened to her beloved, so she made a desperate plea, and she took the rings from the weakest members of each corps, and she sent them to the one person who loved Ganthet as much as she did. She sent each ring to Kyle because Ganthet chose Kyle originally because of his potential to command every shade of the emotional spectrum, something the Guardians couldn't even do. She was hoping that Kyle would learn to control every emotion and tap into ultimate power and save Ganthet. But the rest of the corps don't like what they're hearing, and they decide that this group was poisoned from the start by Sage. So they all leave.